Yeah.
Down there, please. It's always hot in here.
Hey, in yours,
I was gonna say, this one hasn't moved.
yours.
That one always goes back up to 78. Every time you come in here, it's on 78, and nobody touches it. It's like a ghost lives in here, I don't know.
Mine said 68. Yours is saying 72. There's warm in here, sure.
No, there's no, there's any air movement.
Like call the meeting to order. Linda, you have roll call.
Mayor Crane.
Here.
Councilmember Saltz. Martin.
Here.
Sayre.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Tanner.
Here.
And Attorney Powell.
Here. Waiting on Scott Walker from Lafayette, supposed to be here. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Just comments. Yeah. GLC. Yes.
And she would agree. Next time I get married, I'm gonna marry somebody. There you go.
Yeah. Gotta have a plan.
You gotta have one.
She's fine.
Scott, how you doing? Is this the guy? This is the guy. Scott Walker from Greater Lafayette Commerce. Good to have you.
I think it's hard running a few minutes.
That's fine. We just started the meeting. We haven't said anything yet. We're here to decide on the READI grant. Ryan, do you have any further documentation? You have your engineering
Well, let me ask you this, so in the couple meetings there, you asked if I had all my paperwork turned in, so I came down here, that was last Thursday, and you had a meeting up there at Lafayette. Did in fact you see that I had turned in my paperwork?
I did.
And then we also turned it in for the other development, Covington Hills.
Okay.
Had both of them in there. We were trying to decide at that point whether it had to be engineered or not.
I told you on January the 3rd it had to be engineered. And that didn't
So
have.
what does engineering actually include, Brad? Does it,
Well, I have my
Well-
engineered plans here, if you'd like to look at it.
well, this is the first time I've been able to look at it then.
You could look at them anytime. But I will say Vincent Ash with the IEDC called me about 40 minutes ago. And he said that we should move forward with the engineered project since the deadline was June 30th. We risk not getting funded or losing part of our funding. Do you agree with that, Scott?
I haven't talked to Vincent about that, but the deadline to have all the projects inside their portal was June 30th.
Right. Brian?
And then I brought that up, that it was June 30th. They said they would like, Chris Brock told us that they would like to have it turned in by May 15th, but the deadline was June
Right.
30th.
Right.
So we also, on June 19th, had our engineer here, Cameron Seymour, and then he was quickly presented our development. And so, is our engineering complete? No, because we never got the go-ahead on the June 19th meeting when he was here. It never got approved, but we had the guy here, and then I've got the documentation to show that they said they would have it done before that deadline of June 30th. So we never got it completed because we came here with the engineer and we were trying to seek approval. Mr. Tanner made a motion to approve it. Mr. Saltz was not here at that meeting, and then nobody would make a second motion, so we were not able to, so we got out here. And you also said that the READI grant, you've got the contract, it's already to you for $749,000, whatever the X amount of dollars are. So we told him outside there, he said, well, I guess we're not in any hurry now since you've already got all the READI grant money.
For the Lafayette people, are you, in contact with IEDC to see what's been sent to them for approval before you make a recommendation of what money is given to whatever entity, of the READI grant money?
We actually input the projects into the portal. The way that, our regional board of representatives allocated the funds was to each county. 5 of the counties got 1.5 million approximately, and
Right.
1 county got $1 million. Fountain County allocated that between Attica and Covington.
Right.
Our requirement was, because what we didn't wanna have happen was the regional board trying to decide which projects get funded. We wanted our local partners to decide those projects. So our requirement before we put anything in the portal was a letter that says what the project is going to be. So far, the only letter we have is the one saying the Shiloh development. And so that project is in the portal and was in there for the full 749,000.
460.
Who was the letter from?
The mayor of Covington.
Okay, so it was from the city.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's all we required for our process. We didn't require council action. If you choose to follow council action, that's you can, that's up to, I guess, all of you. The other thing I just wanted to say about the process, the state was driving for projects that are engineered and have a high degree of feasibility. Feasibility being the financing in place for projects to happen, or the concept of financing, or a demonstrated developer. So for instance, in Monticello, the project that moved forward was a continuation of a subdivision called Sycamore Estates. And so that project that moved forward was Sycamore Estates number 2, which had all of their engineering complete, was a project that the developer was working on the financing for, and the READI dollars accelerated the process. READI for the state stands for, is an acronym for Regional Economic Acceleration Development Initiative. And so they really were looking for projects that are ready to go, shovel-ready projects, so that these funds could be used to make them happen a little bit faster. And so your conversation, I think, with Vincent earlier today indicates kind of their mindset. They're looking for projects that are ready to go.
And when I talked to him, I explained the situation. I didn't tell him I was one of the developers also. I told him I was the mayor.
Was one of your recommendations, the resolutions that was passed by this council to be, for you to see? Is that one that you included in your portal?
I don't think that was included in the,
Not one, not
in
included.
the portal for the state.
Okay, my next question is, you know, as far as the council, what we've been told by the lady that come here to begin with, that we're gonna be, the council is responsible for paying claims. Okay, is that right?
The city will be the owner of the project and would be responsible for paying claims. I don't know enough about your process that would be you or somebody, some other part of the city.
Well, we've been told that it's gonna be the council that will look at bids, quotes, whatever, and approve them for construction. And then when we get claims in, we'll know what claims are coming in and what for. And the council is gonna be responsible for paying these claims. It is a reimbursable grant, correct?
Yes, that's right. The state holds all of the money.
Right.
We don't have any of the money yet. When there's a claim, the project owner would make a claim to us. We would file that claim with the state through that same portal. Then they issue a payment to us, and then we would issue the payment to the project owner, the city.
Okay, so the council won't be involved in that at all, then, what you're telling me?
No, it's terribly the opposite of what he said.
Huh?
He just said the city owned the project.
That's exactly right, but he just said.
Not the
that
city council,
claims
the
would
board
go
of
to the
works,
state.
look over the claims, is what he said.
Claims would go to the state, is that correct?
The local unit of government, the project owner would submit a claim to us as the fiduciary. We submit the claim to the state then would review all of the documentation for the claim, make sure that it's following all the federal and state requirements. Then they would issue a payment to us, and we would issue a payment to the city.
He was agreeing with your original statement.
You will pay the city or you will pay the developer
Our contract will be with the city.
with the city, okay? So the city will have to pay these claims to begin with and then get reimbursed, is that correct?
Well, that would be however you structure that with the developers. So if they're out the money, you may just make them be out the money, and then when you get reimbursed, you pay them. It depends on how you structure it.
I see, yeah, I follow you now.
It could be us. We could pay the claim and then
Why would we have to pay the claim? We just wait to get the money from them and then pay the claim, right? That's what you just said.
One of 2 ways to do it.
Yeah,
Two ways to do it.
yeah.
Brad, which council or who in the city will receive bids and review bids and make payments? Will it be the city council or the board of works?
The council, the board of works will pay claims like we do now. It's the
Okay,
same
yeah.
as.
I just wanted to be
Yeah,
clear.
it's the same as we do now.
Okay.
I guess I got a question, was your development ever approved by the city, Brad? As of June 30th, March 20th, it wasn't approved.
I think it's been approved.
Cause we had to come in June 19th and to try to get approval for adding, for our development to be 35 lots. We've been to every meeting, and I don't know when this has ever been approved. Does anybody up here know when it's been approved?
I think it's been approved, it was approved,
But when?
I can't give you the date.
Because it hasn't been approved.
We actually approved this before it even went to the school. We approved it, and then the school turned it down.
Is it for the READI grant or for the TIF? It's for the TIF.
I got one
For the-
question.
For the
But
TIF.
the project was approved, that was your question.
Yeah.
Project was approved last
Okay,
year.
but as of March 20th in the meeting, I asked Brad, in the meeting here, I said, has your project been approved? Has your development been approved? He said, not yet, but it will be. I got it on video.
I think your question's kind of wide open, there's several levels of approval, so the question is, what were you asking? The subdevelopment, or the development was approved last year. If you're talking about approved for the READI grant, that may have been the discussion you're talking about.
No, I'm just saying,
That's
has
the
it
only
has
thing
it
that
been
wasn't-
approved by the city? That's what we came in for,
Brian,
to get
what
approved.
you're talking about is the dedication. Have we dedicated it to the city?
Have you got approval to build on it is what we had to get approval for to be able to actually sell a house.
Yeah.
So you said these are your requirements that you have to have before you can sell a lot. And so we met all those requirements at one time there. And then you've added the engineering to it, so then we went.
We've got our engineering done for,
We would have ours done too by June 30th, Brad, that's the point behind it. But you already said you had the contract.
I did.
I know,
Well,
you
Red-
did, because you didn't turn ours in.
Resolution 2023-2 is a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Coach and approving a resolution of the City of Coach and Indiana Redevelopment Commission designating and declaring the Shiloh Residential Economic Development Area. That was done, I don't know when it was done, but that's a resolution that we.
2021, actually.
This
Oh,
is-
yeah, I've got two marked.
Yeah.
2023.
So ours really wasn't even considered because it wasn't turned in. Is that correct, Mr. Walker?
We, only had, as I explained a couple of times, I think, when we talked, that we needed a letter from the city that says what the project says. And so,
I told you January the 3rd, it had to be engineered, Brian, and you didn't believe me.
That's not exactly the words that you used there.
That's
You said,
exact word-
you said
that's
it had.
exact words I
We've had
used
We've had
standing right over
topography,
here.
we've had the topography done. We've got with the engineer, we've agreed to pay him the $38,000 to get it done, so we could get it approved.
Are you interested in going forward with READI 2.0?
What does that include? We talked to Julie Berry up there, a week and a half ago, and she said that, it was for capital projects.
That
wasn't for
That would
housing.
be considered a capital project, am I right, Scott?
It's not what she said.
Yeah, she said it wouldn't be, she told us it wouldn't be for any housing, and what was it?
Nothing residential is what she said.
Nothing residential.
she was mistaken. What the statement means is they talk about capital projects is, not funding programs. So not funding a program that's like a workforce development program or a program that says trains entrepreneurs or something like that. So that when they say capital projects, they mean things like infrastructure, housing developments, that sort of stuff.
And that is one of the initiatives in 2.0, correct, Scott?
The state recognizes the need for housing. The challenge will be for all of us is that, instead of the way this READI 1.0, just so you know, the READI 2.0 projects will have to be attractive for the state to wanna come in because they're actually gonna help the regions decide which actual projects get funded. So the more that anyone who's a project developer can have their project ready to go with making it shovel ready, all it needs is this small amount of money that the state will put in, and it also has to be matched by the local unit of government, 1-to-1, and then leverage a 3-to-1 match on top of it. So if you're looking for $20,000, you have to demonstrate that you have $80,000 of other dollars coming into the project, just as a reference. So it's a 4-to-1 match. The local unit of government has to put in 1-to-1 for what the state's putting in, and then 3-to-1 from a private investment standpoint.
You wanna, can I explain that on that part, is if you build a house and it's, say you build 10 houses and they're $300,000, that's $3 million is what that counts on the match.
Right. And then, so then in that sort of a project then would be a $5 million total project. You'd have $1 million from the state, $1 million from the local unit of government would have to put in too, and then you could leverage it and say you're gonna build 10 houses at $300,000. And then that would be that 3-to-1, 1-to-1 match. So in that case, that'd be a $5 million project.
Are the requirements for that gonna be the same as it is for this READI grant? Engineering, resolution, so forth?
Yeah, so the state's really gonna actually even put a higher threshold on it, because they're gonna come and help us decide which projects get funded. And they're only gonna wanna spend the money, they're all under pressure to spend money quickly. And so they're gonna want projects that are really attractive and ready to go.
So what's the timeline on that thing?
So they're asking for our, so the letter of submission that we send in as a region will go in October. That doesn't include any projects, and then they'll make an allocation to our area, and then they wanna start spending money in January on projects. They wanna start the process of identifying the projects that are moving forward. And, the first round for the entire state is 250 million. So they had 500 million last time, they have 250 next year, and 250 million the following year.
Scott, did we submit something before, August 31st?
There is, so one of the things that we're doing as a region is collecting the, as many projects as we can in a portal that will then, we'll collect what projects are. There's not a commitment for any funding for those, but we wanna collect all the projects that we can for the region, and then, have our regional board of representatives prioritize those projects, in really the priority areas of housing's important, childcare is important, and things like that. And then, look for funding sources to help get those projects done, whether that's READI 2.0 dollars or other funds that are out there.
Would you be interested in that?
Well, I guess part of it was communication loss here during this project. Who would we talk to? Would that go through the city again, like this project is, or would that go through an independent developer like what we would be? And then how do we get this information? Because, you know, we kind of went up here to, you know, to your building and stuff there, we, you know, just more or less we were told that it has to go through, you need to talk to your mayor and the city council.
The difference is that this second round, READI 2.0, is state money, and the first round was federal money under the American Rescue Plan Act, called ARPA. And so those dollars in ARPA were allocated to specific types of things like water and sewer lines. And so, in the ARPA dollars, to be able for the state to use this money in this way, they require that the infrastructure owner is the local unit of government. And so that's why in the case of READI 1.0, it has to run through the cities or other local units of government, because that's kind of the way the federal act was put in place. And so the state won't have those encumbrances in READI 2.0.
So it would go direct to the developer?
It could, if that's the way the structure was, right? So if it's in a case where the city would own infrastructure, then if the city had a contract with the developer to develop that infrastructure, it could go that way. Or it could, if the city's gonna develop the infrastructure, it could go to the city. But there will be a lot more opportunity for what it could look like. The other thing that, it could happen. The state's talked about these being loans to projects, not grants as well in READI 2.0. And so it may be a loan for money to close the gap in financing that a project has. So where a project owner is borrowing money and there's a gap, the state may wanna come in as to loan the money for it. We've encouraged the state to think about a revolving loan fund that would be forgivable. If a developer doesn't make money on the that was projected in the pro forma, the loan could be forgiven. If they do make money, they pay the loan back and the loan would come back to the region. I don't think that'll happen in this one, but the state may do something similar with loans for projects instead of grants. For projects that they have a high desire to see come to fruition, they may loan the money in to the project to make it happen.
So what about for like business development? We own 13 and a half acres in kind of a prime spot. Is there anything that would be considered where we could do something for, add to the businesses? 'Cause there's several things that Covington needs, and there's really no place to put anything commercially. Is that something that could be looked at in this next one also?
It could be, especially if you linked it to, right now the state has a childcare crisis. I'm not sure how many childcare providers you have in this area, but everywhere else is, stressed to find enough childcare for people to be in the workforce. And so if there was a way that you could link in a facility for childcare, that would probably be attractive to the state.
What about health clinic or something like that?
Definitely need that.
Is that a project that could go
I think so.
forward?
I think that, yeah. Again, we'll open up that request for proposals here relatively quickly. We just got the regional housing study complete, and that'll be on the website, and then also this portal for people to submit proposals in. There's no guarantee of funding, right? But we wanna try to aggregate all of those proposals together to really be able to start working on to see if we can help the developers find funding.
Is it better if we do it by August 31st?
I think so.
Get it in the portal?
Just gives you a tight window there to work with. About 6 weeks.
Scott, when you say local government, you mean county or city?
So the state has the local unit of government match, can be any local unit, so it could be county, city, town, I assume.
With these developments, are they allowed to piggyback other grants onto them?
Yeah, I know one project that it's happening in the region, a conversation with the developer, that for that project to be successful, it's gonna require about a 45 to 50% participation from the local unit of government, and that could be through a residential TIF or a bonding or some other mechanism, including they're asking for a bit of READI funding as well.
Okay.
And so,
Cause it kinda goes against what, at first you said it's to get the project started. If they're piggybacking multiple grants, it's really funding the whole project to an extent. So I was just curious on.
well, so the state wants to use the money as the last dollars in for a project to go forward. And so it can have other sources of funding in there too, but they really were looking for projects that were ready to go, and then this money just accelerated them.
Are we required to, as a council, are we required to take quotes or bids, on either one of these projects, no matter which one?
So I think, the federal dollars require following federal procurement processes.
And that's, quotes 50 to 150,000,
To,
and bids for anything over 150,000?
or 250 maybe, the.
250.
250 now?
Yeah.
Okay, and they cannot piecemeal it. Is that correct?
You mean you can't have, 25 small projects under $10,000?
Right.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Okay, okay. So the developers, what they're probably gonna be required to do is have, I mean, one guy bids the whole project and he gets subcontractors for what he doesn't do. But the whole thing will be, I mean, when we receive a bid, it will be for the total project.
I'm not exactly sure
Okay,
about that
if it
structure.
was like water and sewer was one aspect of it, and then say the electrical was going to be done by the city, and we pay the city for that. Does it have to be all in one, or can you do like water and electric, or water and sewer?
You do different bids, I would imagine. You'd have a different request for proposal
Yeah.
for each packet of work, like you would, and then anywhere you were applying the READI money would have to follow the procurement process.
Right.
If you were, say, doing the electrical with other dollars, then you follow whatever the requirements are for those dollars. You wouldn't have to follow the READI. If no READI dollars were in there, you don't have to follow the federal procurement process.
Okay.
It can be your local match, but you don't have to follow that procurement if it's a different project. If you put it all together, all of it would have to follow the procurement.
Okay. Okay, we have any other questions?
I do.
Scott, thank you for considering Covington and helping us out being here today.
Yeah, we have a passion for this entire region. We want this entire region to grow and be successful.
Thanks for coming down. Anybody else have any questions? Brian, you have any?
I guess I'm kinda lost what to say for now, so I guess our project is not even gonna be considered.
Well, what he's telling us, Brian, is you didn't have the engineering done.
But we could have, Bob.
Huh?
I said we could have if we wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Is it possible?
I've got a paper here, which I think I actually gave Mr. Walker a copy of that. It shows that it would have been done. I will give that to you just so you know.
Can you have everything done for August 31st for 2.0?
Do I?
Can you have it done for August 31st for 2.0?
Well, I would hope so. It depends on what we're wanting to do now. I mean, our plans was to do, this Whispering Willows and stuff there now.
You can still do that, or you can do, the 13 acres.
You say there will be others coming, passes ready 2.0, or for like each year.
There's,
Or each
yeah,
season.
so there's 250 for the first year, 250 million for the second year. And that's across the state, so the state will allocate how much they're giving to our region. And then they'll be at the table deciding projects with us.
How many regions are you broken up into?
15.
15.
They are, there was 17 in READI 1.0, but they're working hard to get the Indy region to be one region. There were 3 in Indianapolis. And so the IEDC is working hard to tell them they're one region.
There's a lot of opportunity there, Brian, if you wanna work on something, put it together. It sounds like we've got next couple of years, there's funding available. We wanna get it done.
Well, and they said ideally it would be August 31st, you'd like to have it, right?
For 2.0.
For 2.0, but it can be a little bit later, you're actually deciding.
Yeah, and
By January, like the-
we may keep that portal open to allow people to submit projects. And so, so the actual decisions will happen starting in January.
But we're understanding